So good morning, Annie. Good afternoon.
Good morning. Yes.
Those those joining from different continents. Annie, I'm glad to see you again, and I'm really happy that we are talking about visual merchandising and especially paying attention to visual merchandising in the context of smaller retail stores or smaller businesses. So, Annie, tell
hmm
us a little more about yourself and about VMID
Sure.
and your current plans.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me again. It's a pleasure, just like last time. So visual merchandising. Yeah, so I'm a visual merchandising business owner. I have an agency located in Toronto, Canada, that's catered to small to medium range businesses, but mostly small, where I help them. I'm basically like the go-to VM resource for these shops so that knowing they don't have the internal need for an in-house visual merchandiser at all times, I can offer them consulting and design services, hands-on labor, staff training as well, so that it's more on a project needs basis. And I also help market vendors as well. So even if it's a small table that they need help with for setup, I can help them with that to larger stores as well. So the services are pretty customizable. But this way, I've worked with a lot of independent retailers and a lot of small businesses, knowing their unique set of needs. And I can't help but, even when I shop these stores, sort of have that perspective on and notice things that they do great, things that they can do better, and things that they often do that they would do better not doing anymore. So we're going to talk about some of those wins and misses. Of course, the importance of visual merchandising is that it's a basic need for retail. It's a
Mm-hmm.
part of operations. It's not a luxury. It doesn't mean that you need to spend thousands of dollars on an extravagant window display, especially knowing that it's a hard time for retailers right now. But it
Okay.
does mean that you have to consider how you're placing your products in your space because you've already made the investment of having a physical space. So you need to make sure that it's going to do the best that it can for you. So how you're placing your products, how you're organizing it, all of that needs to be planned so that it's working to your in your favor. So that's the first thing I want to clarify. It's not all about pretty displays and things like a lot of people think.
Right. I, I I
So
mean I mean it's really important for us like just to take a little moment and open up these brackets and
yeah,
insist on that. I mean when we use the term visual merchandising, smaller retailers or businesses or independents tend to say like, wow, no, I don't need that service. However,
yeah.
it's really important for us. Could we just before going into the do's and the don'ts, can we just elaborate on the importance of having a clear offering? Like visual merchandising is not also about the extravagant displays or only putting beautiful stuff. It has to
Yeah.
have a meaning. Can you
Yeah.
translate that meaning to us, and to what extent is visual merchandising important?
Yes. So with visual merchandising, you're telling a customer why they need to walk into your store. You're presenting the purpose, which means that your storefronts or window displays already should reflect a reason to walk in and be relevant to customers. Then when they walk in, you want to give them a reason to actually explore your space. With visual cues, you can explain things about your products to customers. So using visual merchandising as a way to educate them about the products. So similarly to how you speak to the customers as you are serving them, you can save a lot of the conversation with these visual cues. What you're saying to them, present the products in that way. And think about all the customers that you don't even get to serve because if there's only one of you and 10 customers that have walked in, you can't possibly give the same conversation to all those customers. But if you find ways to display the products so that they notice all of these different special selling features, all of the design elements within products, then you are showcasing those selling points to them. And this way, it's selling the products to customers silently. So it's also interesting to think a lot of us uh, don't really believe salespeople. Like, I know you want to sell to me, so I don't necessarily give much credit to what you're saying if I feel like you're only after a sale, right? You have to
Right,
build that trust.
right.
Of course, we're going to trust our own intuition, more than the salesperson. So we also give more value when we come across a conclusion ourselves rather than the salespeople are telling us. So if I can see the value in products myself, which you can impact with the visual merchandising, before the salesperson actually tells you, you're going to believe yourself more than the salesperson.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's important to highlight that because it comes as a booster or as an aid to that sales
Yes.
assistant.
Yes.
Yeah, and only the fact that we have displayed our product and presented it well also means that the brand is taking care of its product and wants to communicate it in the best way possible to consumers. It also adds value to that brand and reinforces its identity. So this visual aspect is really important, but there's a science behind it. So at this point, how could we start presenting like the most important things that retailers should do when it comes to visual merchandising, or what are the points that they should pay attention to when they develop their VM strategies?
I could talk about this for weeks on end, but I'm
We have the
actually
time to
wondering if
do.
we should, for sure. I'm wondering if it would be interesting to start with the don'ts so that we end up on how to do, because I learned from my previous worlds that if we focus on don'ts, people are lost and think, then what do I do if these are all the things that I don't do? So I'm actually going to start by removing the don'ts,
Right.
and then we'll go over this is what you do
Let's kick off kick off
do.
with the don'ts. At least
Yeah.
we put a better focus on the do's and say like there are
Yes.
lots of things to do later on.
Yes.
So please, Annie,
Exactly.
present us with the don'ts.
Yes. So similarly to how we already went over the misconception that visual merchandising is all about displays, when I mention what my work is, a lot of people think that it's all about window displays. And for my offering, it's actually a very small part of what I do. Most people come in for the in-store organization. So one point I want to make is when you are doing your window displays, just because you have a window display doesn't mean that you shouldn't put thought to how it's doing for you. So again, spending thousands of dollars doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see that return. You have to think about what you're actually investing towards. So one major don't I would say is don't make your window displays all about the artwork behind crafting the window displays, because you're not selling the artists and you're not selling the props or the crafts. So it's really important to make sure that the products are the heroes. And I think we can see that the trend in larger stores is very much about making the products the heroes. At least in Canada, we really don't see those you know crafted props anymore. When I entered the world of visual merchandising, it was all about crafting and over the top, abundant displays. And it was so much fun to do. And it served its purpose at that time. And maybe we still see that during the holiday season as well. But for the most part, we really see more minimal window displays that are really just highlighting the products. And that doesn't mean keeping it boring. You could still make it inspiring with, strong layouts, thinking about focal points, thinking about the lighting. But I think when it comes to independent shops, a lot of them having the freedom to do their own thing sometimes go too crazy with the props and the displays and they overpower the products. So I would say keep it business minded and don't have the craft overpower the products.
Right. So it ha
It should be
it should not.
supporting.
Yeah, exactly. It should be
Yeah.
complementing and supporting and not erasing the idea of the product. Actually, Annie, and should we say that when the customer moves in to the store after having seen those beautiful windows, if the product is not also displayed at the interior, it would create a certain discrepancy or shock because I have
Yes.
seen something and I need to see it inside, right? So
Yes.
it's important for us to look at that. And can you also elaborate on the expenses that we might tend to put in these lavishing windows?
Yes, I think it's important to think about what makes sense to be disposable if it's a small cost, and what makes sense to spend more on knowing that you're gonna reuse it and repurpose it.
Right.
So, sometimes we think I'm going to keep my budget small and get A, B, and C because I'm only going to use it once. Well, what if you invest in things that are more expensive, but knowing that in the long run, it's actually going to be less of a cost? Another thing to think about is instead of thinking of your budget, like let's say, I don't know, 1,000 a month as an example, instead of seeing it as a static amount every month, how about you strategize your whole year, knowing that some months you need to go a little bit more over the top and elaborate, like the holiday season, versus the times that you don't have much foot traffic. Not many people are going to be seeing the window display. It doesn't make sense to spend too much on it. So then you can create different proportions with the budgets
Mm,
within the year rather than having the same amount every month is another thing, another way to strategize the budget.
okay. Okay, so there are two things like to retain from here. First of all, understanding what we should do as a one shot when we're using that window or that budget to the window. However, we have
Yeah.
to contextualize it within the entire year's timeline for things to make more
Yeah.
sense to the retailer and to the to the retailer's budget that he's
Hmm.
allocating. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's our number one in the don't list.
That's right. That's right.
Counting toward number two.
Yeah. So, and another don't, I would say honoring the products properly. So it's too often that you find products directly on the floor, stacks of clothes on the floor, even if it's maybe a pair of shoes makes sense, maybe they don't. But really, whenever you put something on the floor, I find you're degrading it. Even if it's a small slab, a small riser, a shoebox to lift the pair, a chair, a plate of something, just honor your products properly. That also means the standards around it. Is it steamed well? Are there any dust bunnies? Is the lighting actually on the products rather than in a blank corner? So giving the products their full value. If you also overstuff the windows, also degrades the products. The more kind of negative space you leave, the higher the value it seems. So, giving proper honor to the products. Um, Even signage, I'm not gonna say you can never print signage yourself,
Mm,
but then, invest in the right sign holder so that it still looks like a premium sign. You don't want the customer to see that you just printed it out of the window and you're taking tape out of your cash desk and you're sticking it on. It looks like a discount store or a stock room.
yeah,
It doesn't feel like you're an established company. So even if you're an independent retailer, you still want that feeling that the space is premium. So just, invest in nice frames. Then you can print the sign out of your printer and then it'll still look a lot nicer rather than having individual papers that are wrinkled taped on walls and things. Like all those little things matter. It
right.
might feel like home to you, but it should still feel like when they walk in, like you still want to romance the customers when they walk in. So they don't want to feel like it's your back room or your stock room or an operational area.
Right. So we're still inviting everyone to take care of the slightest detail and saying that it doesn't have to be overly done, but done correctly, honoring the
Exactly.
product, cleaning it, presenting it in the best way possible, even though we're not selling luxury, but at least it would give a good sign to the to our customers by telling them we're taking care of the product that we're offering you. So
Yes.
it's a mutual positive feeling that they will get. Perfect.
Yes.
And
The
then
next one would what I would say, having too many fixtures or products both in the windows and in the store. So sometimes when you walk in and of course everybody wants to feature all the products that they have, and
yes.
sometimes the assortment is just too full. Just because you have everything doesn't mean you show everything if it's interfering with the layout. You don't want people to come in to feel claustrophobic. There's so much that they're actually going to miss because it's not comfortable stopping and looking through everything. So you're actually not helping show everything because now they're skipping over more areas because it's uncomfortable to be shopping. And similarly, I find sometimes the windows are that way too. Sometimes independent retailers go crazy with showing so many different things, and it could be very interesting, but at the same time, I think windows are great to leave some opening so that they can actually see inside the store and get a sense of whether it's worth walking in or not. That's a part of selling them and pulling them in. So don't block the whole window. Have a great display, show your products, but still leave some sight lines into your shop, knowing that your shop also then has to look great from the outside so that
Mm-hmm.
they feel comfortable walking in.
Right. And Annie, I believe that it's important for us to understand when to introduce such and such reference or product on the shop floor in a way that gives a sense of a floor that is turning or constantly adding something new. Sometimes, as you said,
Mhm,
retailers want to just dump in everything that they have to tell customers like, yeah, we have a lot to offer you. However, it won't make sense right here, right now, because some products need to come in before or later on, maybe depending on the season, on the event, or simply to just let other products be more visible on the shop
mhm,
floor, right? So
mhm.
I think that idea of decluttering is important in the sense that like let each product rise and have its own time on the shop floor.
For sure. So if you're going to invest in a great window display, and let's say you leave it up for 6 to 8 weeks, that doesn't mean that it's going to stay exactly the same. You can swap the products in and out while leaving the layout the
Yes,
same.
yes, 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 sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Same as
And
inside the store, like face outs and any key areas like that. You can tweak things on a weekly basis. You don't have to change all the merchandising, but wherever there's a special display area, change what's on there on a weekly basis. Really small edit there so that when you have returning customers, they always feel like there's something fresh to be looking at, even if you didn't get a new delivery.
exactly. Yes, that's a really good point to highlight and to present. And do you advise also your customers on what types of products should be presented at a specific moment? And is a calendar that retailers should
Yeah.
respect whenever it comes to developing their VM plans?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I always try to have it as relevant as possible to whatever is happening in that neighborhood or in the world, knowing when people are going to shop for things. So, for example, back to school, people are not going to be most people are not going to be shopping for back to school items uh, a few days beforehand. It's typically going to be earlier on in the summertime, not near the beginning, towards the middle, let's say, which is when you want to get everything ready for back to school in those introductory sort of areas, so that people passing by, whether or not they remember, they think, you know what, it's that time again. Let me go and grab a few items. So you either need to match their expectation, you know, I need to get this. Do you have it? Oh, there it is. Or remind them. It's
Mm,
also important to match it with your neighbors. So I feel like the holiday season tends to get a little bit earlier every year.
yes.
And I know customers complain, but at the same time, if stores are actually being shopped for that reason, you don't want to be the late one.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Perfect.
Yeah.
And how about our fourth don't in visual merchandising?
I would say, don't forget about not having a launch zone. So you already spoke to that a little bit with being an extension of the window display. That launch zone is very important to show the most relevant stories, um, and show the theme that you're working off of. So again, the window display pulls the customer in. You want to continue that momentum. So either having an extension of the same theme or something that aligns to it. But if your launch zone is its own category rather than a curated area, you're not going to have that section where you can like curate it and refresh it with a theme each time. So I think it
Mm,
is important having a flex area where you are pulling from different sections, or maybe, it could be a whole brand, whatever kind of campaign you're working with, but it's important to have the first section when you walk into a store showing the most relevant story.
okay. Perfect. And then with that story, should we also pay attention to the price points that we generally put in that area? Should we work on an average positioning of pricing, not to shock the customer? Should we present from the lowest to the highest priced items? I mean, does that area have to be just story related, or does it have to also resonate with the entire offering and give like a small summary of what we have here today, right now, to the customer?
I think it depends on the retailer and what's happening in the world. So usually I would always say have full full priced items there, the things with the largest margins. I would never want to focus the sale and clearance items there, because you typically you're not selling your items based on their low ticketed prices. You're selling because of the value you're giving them. But having said that, of course, there's times that people are shopping that way. So if it's Boxing Day or Black Friday, you don't want to be the one who's not making that offer. Nobody's going to be shopping your store. So there's a few times there that it does make sense to have the sale be your story. And of course, again, there are stores that are more value driven. So you do shop those stores because of their price points. So that being the selling point does make sense to be in the launch zone. So it depends on what your selling point is. If you're a luxury brand and your selling point is your name, you're gonna scare your customers away if you show like a sale or a discount kind of area
Right,
in the
right.
beginning. If you are mid-range, but you have an exclusive line and you put that in the front, that might scare your customers away too, because they're going to think, oh, you've gotten really expensive now.
Yeah.
Right now, there's the inflation is just crazy right now. People are watching their pockets. It makes sense to highlight the more affordable items, maybe not to portray it as sale or discount, but just to show, look, even if you're having a tough time, you can still kind of enjoy the shopping experience and find something for you, because we're being mindful of the situation right now. So
Right.
it depends on what your selling point is for your customer.
Just, it's really important to highlight those points. Thank you, Annie, because we need to always rethink the situation, the brand's positioning before we just like decide to display just for displaying or just for fun. And what
Yeah.
about the last don't of visual merchandising that we should present today?
The last, I would say, not carving out the key areas. So again, launch zone being one of them. We already talked about that, making sure you have one. Also having display breaks, any interactivity zone. So if your whole section is simply showing products you have, but not taking little breaks, then again, it's very overwhelming and uninspiring. It feels like a stock room. So maybe it's a panel you can give away to having a display area that's inspiring the customer. Maybe it's a small shelf within a space. Maybe you can't give up a whole wall panel, and that's okay. Maybe it's an experience section where it's an Instagram wall, or a testing station to test your products, or a consultation station. But those experiences are very important. And we talk about experiential retail a lot. But I think sometimes the smaller stores think that maybe it's not relevant to them. But I think that there are opportunities to carve out little sections and take a look at where they are so that they're fairly distributed,
Mm,
so that you have that pull for customers throughout your store.
yeah. So we're
So that's a
still,
bit of a do, but I'm saying don't not do that.
yeah, exactly. So we're giving them the opportunity to breathe a little bit whilst
Yeah.
they're strolling into the store. And as you said, it would keep our offering highlighted and well presented, but allow customers as well to have their moment of interaction with the brand and the product in a way or another. Interesting.
Yes.
Thank you, Annie. Now, okay, we said that there are lots of things that we should be careful about, and we should stay away from. And what about the do's? What about the things that really matter in visual merchandising, and on which retailers should be investing in and paying attention to?
So wins in retail spaces and these independent shops. kind of goes back to the window display idea. So the first don't was don't make it too crafty. At the same time, it's a win to give it that shop local feel. So you don't need to do it up that looks like very corporate and high end. It's okay to make it look like it is an independent shop. That's why customers appreciate your shop.
Yeah.
So give it that flavor, hire that local artist, hire that local merchandiser, show those unique, fixtures and things, hand drawn signage, artistically. Like all of that is okay as long as it's still complementing the products, not overpowering. So yes, the win is to have that shop local feel in your window displays.
And yes, for authenticity, right?
Exactly.
Like
That's the
like
concise way to say
exactly. And just
it.
like reflecting the heart of the brand. I believe that if I might join you with what you're saying, we forgot how brands could be authentic, and we
Yeah.
forgot the extent to which we need to keep our identity, and it's okay not to be perfectly cut out, and out of the
Yeah.
box. And today, many retailers and visual merchandisers working with independent retailers are also looking for second-hand items that
Yeah.
could be reused and integrated in their props. On one end, it's actually a good thing because we're recycling and we're not always producing for props and throwing away. And on the other hand, it keeps like the local feel, as you said. These are items that we got from here and there, or that remind us of a local setup. And could you elaborate a little more on the importance of collaborating with local talent and local artists? To what
Mhm.
extent is that important in today's retail?
So I think it adds that authenticity. People are shopping your store to also support local and to shop local. And I think those local businesses are a part of what people are interested in shopping. So it just adds to the value of the store that they are supporting their local artists by featuring their artwork. And it's also a reason to visit that space rather than to shop online to actually appreciate the space
Mm,
that this local
mm,
artist has
mm.
created. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So how about the second do?
The second win is similar to what you just said, actually, is that the space has character. The fixtures don't need to all be identical or part of the same fixture package. As long as they have a similar style, it
Yeah.
can add interest seeing that maybe you've purchased from different places. It could be vintage pieces. You can paint over similar styles to tie the brand colors together. There's so many different ways to do it that it still looks cohesive, but still kind of, um, shopping from different places
Mm,
can create that sort of space with character. So secondhand doesn't have to be a bad thing as long
yeah,
as it's not damaged.
right,
Upcycle it. Get secondhand, but upcycle. Yeah.
right.
So having a space with
Interesting.
character is a win. Yep.
Interesting. And a third, what would a third win be?
I would say curating packages. So sometimes multi-vendor shops means having to stick to the brand being together.
Yeah.
But when you have a smaller shop, you have more flexibility. People are coming for, local artisans, handmade products. They're not necessarily shopping for brand name first, which means you don't have to stick to the same brand together necessarily. You can have those sections that you're curating products outside of their brand homes
Mm,
to
mm.
create a more relevant theme. So that is a benefit to having a smaller space, and it's a good opportunity to do that.
Right. So as if we're saying it's okay to go out of the standards. Visual merchandising has been very much associated to the book, to the procedure, to the same way, to the replica, etc. With independent retailers, are saying, okay, as long as you respect the heart of the brand, the identity, it's important for you also to just translate in the best way possible things related to presentation, packaging, assembling, etc. To make more sense to your customers and to speak well for your brand or on behalf of your brand. Yay! Perfect.
Yeah. Which actually takes me to my next point, and it's having that freedom to tweak things as you need.
Yeah.
So with, larger companies, you have more people to go through whenever you want to change anything, edit anything. What are we featuring? What what holiday is coming up? What are we targeting? But at the same time, there's so many that happens between all of those events. Sometimes you need to be really fast to react to things, and you don't have time to go through all these people. So having short timelines to actually react to how people are shopping is a win to being an independent retailer. Sometimes that freedom isn't such a good thing if you don't have the visual merchandising skills and you have too much freedom to keep changing things around. You might not have the strong visual merchandising in place. Similarly to why I do not like slat walls. I don't like the look of them, but also you can almost do too much where you don't have the strong layouts if you don't plan strategically.
Right.
So sometimes you do kind of need more structure, but as long as you have the right visual merchandising training, then it's a good thing to have that freedom so that you can edit just spur of the moment as you need based on people's the shopping behaviors of the moment.
Right. And it all comes down to the idea of having like the same line of thought, connecting everything that we're doing. As long as we're staying around that, things will be okay because customers need to also feel safe to when it comes to our brand, and they need to still feel that they are talking to the same person each time they come to shop from that store. So what is our fifth and most important win in visual merchandising?
It's showing the unique product offering. That is the number one reason that people are coming to these independent retailers, knowing that, they're going to find things that they can't find elsewhere. So make sure that that is front and forward. Even if it's not like maybe people are coming and buying some staple or essential items. That might be what they end up buying, but they already know you have that, or they know to expect that. That shouldn't be what you're introducing to them. So definitely number one is showcase your unique product offering. Even if it's more of a novelty piece, sometimes it strikes our interest and that's not what we end up buying in the end, but it's what caught our attention.
Perfect. And whilst you're talking about this fifth point, I was also evaluating all of the discussions that we might have been listening to or reading online, saying that people today don't shop for the product, they'd rather shop for the experience. We want to say like the product is still important, but it's also important in which way we present that product to deliver the most valuable experience, because that product could be found online at a certain point, but what is the main reason that keeps our customers coming or flowing into the store? We have to still work on many things to make our shop experience as appealing as it could be, as relevant as it could be, for customers to feel good when they are shopping inside the store, and once they get that hold of that product, to feel that they have done something good and they have got a hold of a product that is valuable, as you said. So it's important to keep highlighting those things, because visual merchandising is one important, if not the most important elements related to our physical stores, right? And the last point that we could say or highlight, Annie, is what? Like, to retailers, to what extent should they really pay attention to investing into their stores' visual merchandising?
I say creating the right tools. So planning is so important, and that might seem like, oh my goodness, that's one more thing I have to do. But not only the more you do, the faster you'll be able to do it because you'll know what to skip over next time. But if you take the time to invest in proper tools, for example, having a blank floor plan that you're always using to decide where your zones are going to be,
Yeah,
or something easy to shift around your fixture layout so that you're not exhausting yourself physically and spending labor hours to actually be moving all the time. If you do it on a piece of paper, it's a lot quicker and more economical than doing it in person.
right.
Sketching out a wall. How should this wall look? Instead of going and moving all the products all the time, sketch it out first. If it turned out well, you can save it. And next time you don't have to think about it for so long. You can give it to somebody and say, you know, execute this. You can work with single units and then fill it in once you're happy with it rather than moving all the products all the time.
Mm,
So start with the planning tools, but once you're satisfied with what you have, then it's a lot quicker to reuse those items. And maybe eventually you get to the point that you're so skilled you don't need those items, but the pre-planning stage is definitely important to have those items in place. Yeah.
right. And it's important to always highlight that planning, understanding the brand, understanding the floor space, planning our space, and then maybe even planning the types of references that could be inserted on that wall or that area, noting them down, sketching
Yeah.
that, and finally executing and evaluating. Is evaluation an important step in visual merchandising? Do we evaluate the actions that we have taken, the decisions that we have taken for our products right here, right now? And can we, this is my last question, can we measure our store's performance? Do we have any types of metrics or key indicators that help us measure whether our merchandising was effective and efficient?
Yes, so there's quantitative and qualitative. So once we do something, I think give it a shot for at least 2 weeks to really see the effect of
The
it, and then
effect.
you can assess your key performance indicators. So from your traffic, did you see more people purchase? How was your customer conversion compared to before you made that change? How many items are people buying? Are they adding on more items than before? Are they buying higher value items than before? So all those things are um, the key performance indicators, which are a little bit easier in a way to measure compared to before you made the change or compared to last year. But of course, then you also need to consider what else is happening. Is there a reason that if it's not doing well, are there other reasons that it's not doing well? What else is stopping people from purchasing? Is it the music? Is it a competitor in the
Yeah,
area?
yeah.
Is it a major world event? All those things can also affect. It's not just visual merchandising, so
Mm,
that's a
mm.
little bit nuanced. But then the qualitative being maybe how people are shopping. Like, are you noticing they are appreciating products more? They're messing up your store less.
Mm.
They are talking about your products more. They're shopping more locations of your business. They're noticing an area that they hadn't noticed before. Um, they are stopping at different sections of your store compared to before. All those things you would gain through observation. It's not something that you can probably assess with metrics. Of course, there
Yes,
are fancy tools out there that very well can track the map and all of that. But usually with these independent retailers, it's more observational. So all that is very important, keeping in mind that you don't want to um, judge like a day after you made the change. You want to
of
give it
course.
a while
Yes,
time. Yeah.
yes,
You want
sure.
to time and then compare like before the change compared to last month, compared to last year, and you also consider what else is happening around you. Because we can say all sorts of principles and rules in terms of visual merchandising, but it is very subjective. So of course you only really know what's working best for you by trying it out and giving it some time.
Right. Thank you for that, Annie. Thank you for all of the
Pleasure.
information. To conclude this beautiful session, can you give us some more information about how we can get in touch with you and how we can do business with you if we are looking for VM services?
Sure. So my website is vmid.com. That's vm-id.com. And to me, it's very obvious, but I guess I have to explain to many people that it stands for Visual Merchandising Identity. So you can go there and check out the different service packages, keeping in mind that it is customizable. Those are just suggestions, but maybe you don't need everything on the list. Maybe you do need the whole list and more. So it's worth checking it out to get the conversation started. And then you can always reach out and we can talk about what makes most sense for you. We do have a fun raffle giveaway these days in collaboration, which is the space audit, and it's a mini consultation package, which means you send photos and I assess all of the major considerations that you should be making in your space. And I suggest ways to elevate and optimize the space in its current state. So to enter that, you need to follow both of us. So maybe you can mention the tags or however you want to portray the information.
Yes,
So
I mean,
follow both of us.
for yes, we have also included the information on both our Instagram accounts, on Huckster underscore Ghalia Bustania underscore Huckster and VMID as well. And we'll be announcing, I believe, the results very soon on our
Tomorrow.
pages.
Yes. Yes. So if you're interested, you can enter, but it is a service that I offer on an ongoing basis. So if it sounds like something that you were interested in, but you didn't win, that's okay. You can always book it. So that's about it. So yeah, I can help you through consulting or actually more involvement with the designs and the labor to execute all of it, staff training. However, you know, everybody has different needs. So that's why it's fairly customizable. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Annie. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And hopefully, we'll be working on other maybe VM related sessions together very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.